Welcome to the Good Success Podcast. We have an amazing show scheduled for you today, but before we get started, let's have a word from our sponsors. Radius Renovation Group is a full-service construction management solution for investors of single-family and small multifamily investors in 25 states. Whether you own one property or hundreds in different states, the goal is to be your one-stop shop for all your construction needs, to increase property values, and to give you a positive and profitable outcome. Using their 8-step process, Radius will walk the project, complete a line-by-line scope of work and estimate, schedule work with licensed and Radius certified contractors, manage the project and contractors, pay the contractors as work is completed, provide quality control throughout the project, and when the project is complete, do a final inspection. Clients are provided with login access to Radius's cloud-based project management platform to view work schedules and updated photos of each job. There is even the ability to directly message the project manager. Radius only works with real estate investors, so they speak your language and understand your needs, from project timing to investor-friendly pricing. If you're an investor who is done trying to manage contractors and rehabs on your own, it might be time to consider having Radius as your partner. To put their expertise to work for you today, visit the Radius website at www.radiusreno.com or call them right now at 417-730-9777. And now, back to the Good Success Podcast.
Because success can be bad, right? You can be technically successful, but it's not good, and however you define good. You're making tons of money, but your family life is falling apart, right? That's not good success. That's bad success.
Welcome back to the Good Success Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Culler. Got Tom Olson sitting right next to me on my left, president of Good Success, wearing a nice jacket.
That's me.
Looking presidential.
Spiffy.
Looking presidential.
Yes, I was just at a meeting. We were talking about Amazon actually coming to Gary, Indiana, and occupying part of the airport. And that's a pitch that's going to actually happen in Seattle in a couple of weeks. Ooh. And it was pretty intense. So I'm really excited about everything that's already happened so far in Gary and things that are to come.
A lot going down. Didn't you have something going on last week too?
Yes, so Friday actually went to the meeting where they're talking about the casino moving, so it's coming off of the Indiana Harbor and onto land, which I'm not really a big casino guy. I could really care less about the actual casino itself, but the jobs that it creates around and kind of like what effect it has on the community, both positive and negative, and I was very interested in. But I think the biggest thing about that whole thing happening is opening up the harbor. And talking about Amazon or talking about FedEx or talking about, big logistics companies, they want that harbor emptied out, and that would be one of the biggest keys to getting some kind of a big name sitting right there in that harbor.
Well, don't give away too much.
Okay, well,
because we're going to talk about the Community Go-Giver event, right?
Yes.
All right, awesome.
Yes, we are.
Which we'll talk about that in a second.
Mary Hart's actually one of our speakers.
Speaking of which,
yes.
So we got an awesome guest on the show, Miss Mary Hart out of Kentucky. I'm excited to have her on the show. It's actually my first time talking to her, so we're going to get to interview her. But Tom, go ahead and introduce her.
It's kind of weird saying that she's from Kentucky.
Yes.
Why is that weird?
Well, Mary, why don't you tell? Where were you from when I met you?
So I kind of am still in two places. I was living in Asheville, North Carolina, and I bought a farm in Kentucky. And last year I moved to my farm more full-time than not. So I'm pretty much based in Kentucky now and travel back and forth to Asheville, trying to liquidate some properties there. But I still will keep vacation rentals there in a commercial office building.
So I met Mary Hart probably 5 or 6 years ago-ish.
At least, yeah.
It's been, sometimes time flies, so it may be longer. But I think originally I met her on a Walter Wolford Financial Friends Network.
She's one of those.
Yes.
One of those, yes.
So Financial Friends Network has been really good to a lot of different people, and Mary is one of those awesome, wonderful people. And the first time I met her, I was like, I need to make sure I connect with her, because I could just tell from inside out she was a person that I think at the time wasn't going through like emotionally a good place, but today you can totally see a transformation in that, and I love seeing that in people. And it's kind of funny, like those are the people I always gravitate towards. I'm not going to gravitate toward the people that are standing up in the front of the room and saying how awesome they are. I'm going to go find the people that I think really like are genuine good people, and I think that's who Mary Hart is. So Mary Hart, like she said, she owns some vacation rentals, which I've actually learned a lot from her in the vacation rental space, but she's also an attorney for quite a few years. And did you actually specialize in real estate, or it was just kind of part of what you did?
I did really real estate, estate planning, and business.
Okay, yeah. So a lot of how those things all kind of come together, and if you're an operator like I am, you have a lot of different things going on, and one of the biggest things I've learned over the years is estate planning from Mary, and me and my wife are still kind of going back and forth on actually going down to the farm and actually doing what she's probably going to talk about today. But I think if you haven't done some kind of estate planning, if you haven't thought about those things at the end of your lifetime, it could be one of the biggest mistakes that you ever make. And I think that's part of what you're going to talk about at the Community Go-Giver event. Am I right?
Sure, whatever. I'll talk about anything.
Well, I think your title is the number one mistake that real estate investors are making.
Yeah, I think like top legal mistakes real estate investors make, something like that.
A lot of it though has to do with not planning properly or not thinking ahead. And it all kind of comes together. Maybe that's not the exact same point that she's going to try to make, but that's what I got out of her last talk.
That's
got
true.
Out of it.
It's planning and your estate, your real estate, your paperwork. It's everything. Everything requires planning to do it right.
Yeah, so I highly recommend it. And then bringing on attorneys is kind of one of those things that you think of, okay, nobody wants to listen to an attorney.
Bring on good attorneys.
But Lightning Lips here, which we have, she's dubbed herself this, so it's not us naming her this. This is her own.
I was going to say, be nice, Tom. She told you to be nice.
A judge dubbed her Lightning Lips because she talks so fast. She can get about 6 hours worth of material into a 45-minute presentation. Awesome. So you get a lot of value from listening to her if you could listen fast enough. Yeah. So anyways, I just love spending time with Mary. You're going to be on the cruise in May?
No, I'm not going to be on that cruise.
Okay, so Financial Friends is doing a cruise in May. So almost every cruise that I've been on, Mary's been on. So we're going to miss you there, Mary. So
thank you.
That's how I know Mary.
That's awesome.
Can't do it all.
Well, we're excited to have you on, and let's go ahead and talk about the community. I mean, we're going to mix it up a little bit here, but let's talk about the Community Go-Giver event. What's going on there?
So the Community Go-Giver event, 3 days in my office. I started the whole thing because I have this crazy dream to flip the entire city of Gary, Indiana. And I was actually sitting down with Walter Wolford one day, and I'm like, I got to come up with a really good name that fits my core values, and it also kind of fits what we're trying to accomplish with the whole meeting. And we came up with the name Community Go-Giver. And really what Community Go-Giver means to me is somebody who's using their community, whether it's real estate or whether it's whatever God's giving you as your talent, whatever he's given you as your resources to make a positive impact on the community. I don't believe that you need a pulpit to make an influence. I don't believe that you need to have, certain things that I don't believe that I was with the mayor this morning. I don't believe you have to be a mayor to make a big difference in a city. You as an individual, as a business owner, as a community block leader, as whoever it is in your community, you can make a difference in your community. And that's what the Community Go-Giver is all about. It just so happens that the tool that most of us use is real estate. So how could you positively impact your community using real estate, and how can you make a bunch of money doing it? So that's what we're going to talk about. We have awesome speakers like Mary Hart, and she's going to talk about the biggest mistakes that real estate investors are making, which is something you should think about. Like, so this
one of those mistakes not coming to the Community
Go-Giver
event?
One of those mistakes would be not coming to the Community Go-Giver event. But, one of them is probably not educating yourself. I'm not sure. I don't know what her thing is, but that knowledge and that understanding stays with you forever. And it's the one thing that you can't even calculate the ROI on it because it's infinity. So anyways, that's what the Community Go-Givers event's all about. June 26th, 27th, and 28th. I think Mary is actually speaking on the 26th. So if you want to hear her specifically, which you will want to hear her, trust me, she's actually going to speak right after I talk about my vision for flipping Gary, Indiana, and kind of what we're doing for Gary, Indiana, and what we've been doing for the last year. And I'm excited to have her.
That's amazing. And if you guys want to sign up, make sure you do that because we are selling out at 80 tickets. I don't know what we're at right now, but I'm sure it's getting close. So communitygogiver.com. It's happening right here in our office in Gary, Indiana, so that's awesome. That's why we can only take 80 people, though.
Yes.
Is because the fire marshal said we can't take any more, so 80 people.
That would be a big mistake.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So
the people that are listening right now, I'm going to give you a 30% off coupon code.
He's going to do it.
So I don't do this every time, But because we have one of our speakers with us today, I'm going to give the coupon out. So Mary, make sure your list gets
You're welcome, guys.
Yes. So 30% off if you go to communitygogiver.com, and there's a place to put in a coupon code. Put the code community. It's not very hard to remember, guys. Community. So just put community in, you get 30% off. And for 2 people, it's only like $4.87 or something with that coupon code.
That's crazy.
So with one person, I think it's $3.99 or something like that. But even if you paid full price, you'd be getting 10 times, maybe 100 times the value.
And so much cheaper than almost any other event you're going to go to with this kind of a speaking lineup.
You got
so,
it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So communitygogiver.com, go sign up. We're not going to say any more about it. And then the Good Success Mastermind, the next one is in August right here in our backyard. So we're excited about that. I'm going to have Tom talk about it in just a second. But if you're interested in learning more about the Mastermind and the future dates coming up, go to goodsuccess.com/mastermind. Fill out the application there and you'll get on a phone call with Tom here. So Tom, talk about the Mastermind. What could people expect?
All right, so I have a question for everybody. If you have a major crisis in your life and it's 8 o'clock at night and you have got to make a decision by 1 a.m., who are you going to call? Like, who is in your top 5? Who are the people that, like, you could call, you can text, they're going to respond to you. They're going to not only just respond to you, but they're going to give you advice, not just that you want to hear, but the advice that are going to be honest with you, going to have integrity, going to back it up with their experience or what they've gone through. That's one of the biggest powers of the Mastermind, is creating that unity and that culture and that community of the top people that you would want in your corner when you go to battle with some kind of major issue in your life. So, there's lots of different things, lots of different, pivot points, or lots of different things I could talk about with the ROI. I mean, I know guys in my own mastermind, for instance, that are making $500,000 or $600,000 more today than they were 18 months ago because they're in the mastermind. I can tell you about all the ROI, but sometimes it's hard to articulate what the ROI is to actually have those trusted advisors in your back corner. So people like Mary Hart, people that are the top of their ecosphere and of their skill set. And that's what the Mastermind has done for a lot of the different people in our Mastermind. So if you're interested in trying to help find people for your top 5, goodsuccess.com/mastermind, fill out the application, and me and you will get on a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure you do that. We're excited about the group that we have put together already, and hopefully we'll see you at the next event. Then last thing here, if you haven't already, make sure you have subscribed to the Good Success Podcast. Whatever podcast platform you're listening on, we are on there. So just go search Good Success. If you're listening to it already, then just hit subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review. That'd be absolutely amazing. Or if you wanted to make it easier, just go to your app store, whether you're on iPhone or Android, download the official Good Success app, make it 10 times easier to listen to it. It's right there. It's super easy. It's crazy how easy it is to use.
Episode 183.
As of right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. I don't know when this is going out. Maybe 200.
Yeah. So download the app. It's official, and just search Good Success at your app store. Download it. Do yourself a favor. All right. So let's get into the interview today. We're excited to have Mary Hart on the line here. I'm excited to learn more about what she, her experience, and just the fact that she hangs out with Walter. I mean, she's probably on another level. Walter's on another level. So, you know what I'm saying? So,
I don't know what level Walter's on.
Yeah, I don't know I don't think he knows what level he's on. But anyway, so
another planet, yeah.
Yeah. So
Mary's the type of person that helps Walter stay out of trouble.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good. That's good. So we're gonna get a lot of value out of this interview.
All the time.
So we're gonna actually talk about several different topics today. We're gonna try to stay more on her expertise on the legal side of things and kind of what you guys need to know when it comes to legalities in the real estate investing industry. But Mary, for the people that don't know who you are, if you could do us a favor, introduce yourself. So who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing all that.
Sure. So Mary Hart, obviously. I've been an attorney for 28 years, and started out the estate planning space and then added on real estate and business, a little bit of tax over the years. And then probably about 15 years ago, I got asked to start learning about self-directed IRAs and land trusts and all the stuff that really applies to real estate investors. So I ended up being asked to speak around the country as time went by. And so I've developed a little bit of a niche helping real estate investors, a lot of different topics. So I'm an attorney. I'm also a Section 1031 qualified intermediary. I'm a licensed real estate agent, but I only do that for myself. I am a mom of 3 and a stepmom of 3. I got married almost a year ago. In fact, yesterday was the 2-year anniversary of my engagement, so that was kind of exciting. Living on a farm now, so I'm farming with horses and cows and goats, and we're about to get sheep and chickens, and I'm hopefully going to be a hemp farmer next year. So I'm applying for my grow license for hemp this fall. So
that's amazing.
A lot of different things going on in my life.
You got a lot going on.
She just never stops.
Wow.
Does she? She's got way too much energy.
She might have
I don't like to be bored.
She might have more going on than you do.
I don't know. My goodness.
Crazy.
I think I should start a chicken farm over here.
You should. In Gary, Indiana. Let's do it.
I think my daughter wants to have bees or honeybees or something. Maybe we'll start there.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd like to do that too. That'd be great. Down the line.
There's another idea for her. Man, it just doesn't
typical
stop.
serial entrepreneur.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
she like me. I want a lending company. She wants to grow beans next year.
Yeah.
Oh, I should say I am also a real estate investor. I didn't even say that. And I have been for a long time in the vacation rental space since about 2006. So way before anybody ever heard of vacation rentals. And then I also do a lot of private lending and have a commercial property and a retail space as well. So that's sort of what I do in the real estate investor world.
So when do you sleep?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I actually, I do pretty well. I get probably a good 7 hours a night. I just don't.
I get a full 40 minutes.
I don't sit much during the day. I got a lot going on, but I have a lot of help too. I have a village, my farm. We have my husband and a full-time employee, and I have a village. So
and he's a big guy too, so he can hold his weight.
Yeah,
amazing.
he's a big guy. That's awesome.
In fact, I just took pictures out the upstairs window because our employee is mowing one paddock that we're hoping to get sheep in soon, and Frank, my husband, is spraying weeds with our new non-toxic weed sprayer that we made ourselves with, Epsom salts and soap and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see if it works. We're trying to get out of the toxic stuff.
Yeah. So we're not going to talk about all this stuff today, guys. We might have to have her on to talk about other stuff.
We're not going to talk about farming, I don't
think. So let's kind of start. I'm going to go a little bit off of my notepad here because Tom mentioned estate planning. And that's something that you enjoy talking about, obviously, and you're very much knowledgeable in. So let's talk about estate planning. What is estate planning in general, and then what do people need to do in order to take action on this?
Sure. Well, estate planning, a lot of people think it's just for celebrities and rock stars and people that have mega millions. And that's not what I think of as estate planning. I actually call it life and death planning because it's everything from what happens if you become disabled and can't make your own decisions for 1 hour or a year or the rest of your life, to what happens if you die. How do you leave a legacy? How do you prevent your family from having to go through more tediousness and issues when they're grieving than if you had set things up properly in the first place? So estate planning is a very broad topic to me. It involves tax planning, legacy planning, charitable planning, business succession planning. It's a lot of different things. And I think the biggest issue I see is that people fail to plan. And it's kind of like the business plan thing. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Mm-hmm. Those people who don't plan their disability and death planning leave a huge mess for their loved ones or their charities or whomever they want to leave money to, or even if they don't have any money, they leave a mess for the people who have to clean it up. And it just doesn't take that much to plan and do something. Even if it's a handwritten will on a napkin, it's better than nothing. And I see it as using the shield of the law rather than the sword of the law. And people hear me say that. The sword of the law is being reactionary, and something happens and you have to whip out that sword and fight the battle, or your loved ones do in the estate planning world. And using the shield of the law is being proactive and learning what you need to learn, and then taking the steps to get things done. And it's the ultimate gift, the ultimate love letter, really, is what I call it for your family. Do your estate plan. So for your loved ones, it's the ultimate gift, the ultimate love letter, because grief is bad enough. And if you then have to add on uncertainty and debt and not understanding how to take care of people's estates, it's really devastating to the people you leave behind. So it's not that hard to do even a simple estate plan. Just get her done.
I hope you've been enjoying this Good Success podcast, and we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Our next sponsor is Gary Harper at Sharper Business Solutions. Your business is a personal endeavor that you have poured your blood, sweat, and tears into, and they know that. Sharper Business Solutions is a full-service solution to help you scale your dream. Sharper Business Solution implements the Sharper process and other key systems, giving you the confidence that you need to have freedom and grow and scale your business. The Sharper team wants to come right alongside you and provide the resources needed for long-term growth and success. If you are looking to grow or scale your business, contact my friend and Good Success Mastermind member, Gary Harper, and his team to help you implement the Sharper process. You can schedule your free consultation today at sharperprocess.com. So go do it right now. Go to sharperprocess.com and schedule your free consultation with Gary and his team. Our next sponsor is Jerry Padilla from Prime Lending. Whether it's your first time buying a home or you're well adversed in the process, buying and refinancing a home can be an exciting and rewarding but sometimes challenging experience. At Prime Lending, we take the time to listen and work with you to find a home loan that fits your needs. If you are looking to refinance your loan, lower your interest rate, lower your monthly payments, shorten your term, or get cash for whatever reason you need, we have a solution for you. Prime Lending also has several options for renovation loans, so you can find what works best for you and your home project. Make sure you contact our good friend, Jerry Padilla, who is a senior loan officer and originator with Prime Lending and has over 11 years in the mortgage industry. You can learn more about Jerry and what Prime Lending has to offer you by visiting goodsuccess.com/prime lending. Again, that's goodsuccess.com/prime lending. And now, back to our show.
So I think it's very important, though, to express what that pain could be if you don't do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think a lot of times people won't move until they can at least feel or touch or understand what that pain could be like. So I think that's the first thing people need to do. But the second thing is, I think people just don't know that they're supposed to do this. This isn't something that's taught in college that you should do an estate plan.
Absolutely.
Your parents aren't teaching you this. There's no really place to go that's other than attorneys that advertise, "Hey, do you need an estate plan?" It's kind of there's a missing piece in our education in our education as a whole. So I guess my question to you is when should somebody start doing this? And then how often should it be reviewed? Because I'm assuming if you tell me, well, you should start as soon as you got out of high school or as soon as you get married or as soon as you buy your first house or as soon as you open up a company, that's fine. But then there's no way that same estate plan is going to work in your 20s. That's going to work in your 40s or 50s or 60s.
Sure. Well, the first answer to the question is, yeah, you should start it out of high school as soon as you turn 18. And I'll tell you why. Because once someone is 18, their parents no longer have the legal right to make decisions for them. So if something happens to them medically or financially and they need someone to make a decision for them, they can't do it unless they have given someone their power of attorney to do that. And I'll give you an example that, I should have realized because I advised this for the last 28 years, but my oldest son, who's now 27, the day he turned 18, he went in to get his wisdom teeth removed. And so like I'd been doing for him and for his two brothers for many years, I walk up to the counter to start to fill out the paperwork. I'm the mom. And the woman goes, "You can't fill out that paperwork." And I said,
"Oh, no, you didn't."
"I'm the mom. What do you mean?" She goes, "He's 18 today." And it was like this V8 moment. Oh my God. I tell people that all the time. And I didn't dawn on me. Today's his 18th birthday. And you're right. I can legally no longer do anything for him. So had he had a medical event during that, one, I had to call him up and, I basically had to tell him how to fill it out. But if he had had a problem during that surgery, I could not have necessarily made decisions for him at the hospital with the doctor. I may have had to go to court and be appointed as his legal guardian, which would have cost me tens of thousands of dollars and potentially months worth of time. So instead, everybody, once they're 18, needs to at least do some very simple documents. And my three boys, for their 18th birthday, got an estate plan. They got some other stuff too, but they each got a will and a durable power of attorney where people make their financial decisions, a healthcare power of attorney where someone can make their healthcare decisions, and a living will, which is the pull the plug document. If you are being kept alive artificially and you do not want to be kept alive artificially, then you need one of those documents as well. So I think once somebody turns 18, they should even have the bare minimum documents. And it can be very simple. It's not that complex. And then in terms of reviewing it, you should always review everything when a major change happens. You get married, you have a kid, your wealth increases, your wealth decreases, whatever it is. I tell my clients, have yourself a little party once a year with yourself. I don't care whether it's New Year's or your birthday. A birthday is a good time. On your birthday, grab your glass of wine or your, non-alcoholic beverage, if that's what you prefer. Sit down with your little notebook, review your documents and go, does anything need to change or is this still good? It doesn't take long. And when you're maybe reviewing the status of your life on your birthday, it's a good time to review the status of your estate plan.
So the best time to do this is right now.
Yes, as long as you're 18. You can't.
Okay. As long as you're 18, you should be doing this now. So whether you own a business or whether you're just an employee and not, you should have, because like
for everybody.
She said, this is not just your money. This is not just for people who have money. This is for people that So why don't we just go into the healthcare form a little bit more? I've heard of most people have probably heard of the do not resuscitate but this is, I think what you're talking about is a little bit more than that even.
All right. So there are at least 3 documents that we look at. The healthcare power of attorney is what I was referring to earlier. And that is a document in which you nominate one or more people to make decisions on your behalf, medical decisions on your behalf, if you're unable to make them yourself. So my husband just had some surgery. When he was, under anesthesia, if a medical decision had to be made, he wouldn't have been able to make it. He was under anesthesia. So I was named as his attorney in fact under his power of attorney document, and had something come up, thankfully it didn't, I could have made his medical decisions while he was unable to do so, right? Just like my son having his wisdom teeth removed. So that's the healthcare power of attorney. You're naming someone to act for you if you cannot act for yourself. The second document that I mentioned was called the living will. That's the nickname for it. And that's what we crudely call the pull the plug document. And that is the document that says if you do not want to be kept alive artificially, like if the only thing keeping you alive is intubation or some sort of machine, and that's never going to change, then you would not want to be kept alive artificially. That's the document that allows your healthcare agent to ask the hospital to pull the life support. Okay. The document you mentioned, a do not resuscitate order, or DNR, is actually something you have to get with your doctor, and you can only get it if you pretty much already have a terminal condition. Gotcha. For instance, let's say that you had cancer and you're estimated to live only another month. Do you really want to go through the trauma of having the emergency technicians crack your chest if you have a heart attack in your kitchen when you're going to be dead in 2 weeks or a month? So that do not resuscitate order is something that a doctor would give, and it has to be renewed usually every year, that says, hey, in this situation, do not even resuscitate this person. Let them die naturally. The difference between that and the living will that I mentioned is the living will, Tom, if you had a heart attack in your kitchen and the paramedics showed up, if you don't have a do not resuscitate order, even if you have a living will, they're going to do everything possible to keep you alive, transport you to the hospital, and only if the emergency room doctors say there's nothing we can do, this person's going to have to be kept alive on life support forever, only then does the living will kick in to allow your family members to say terminate life support. And I get people who worry if they sign a living will that some renegade doctor is just going to pull the plug without asking anybody. And that's crazy because 1, the doctors are making a lot of money off of you. Mm-hmm. 2, what a lawsuit that would be if your family wants you to stay on life support and they said, I'm going to play golf, and they unplug you and take off, right? So that never happens that I'm aware of. In 28 years, I've never heard of that happening.
Right.
Interesting. So
it's not just about money. It's about planning your legacy.
It's often, I'd say money is, in most cases, a very small piece of it.
So money's the easy part, just like in business.
Money's the easy part. Yeah, money is the easy part.
So, Mary, you're obviously probably a very busy person. You might be difficult to get a hold of. Somebody that needs to learn more about this stuff and how to actually take action on it and what to do. Is there a place for them to be able to go, like an event or something, a podcast out there? Is there a way to educate themselves on estate planning even further?
Well, that's a good question because I don't go seek out those things since I teach them myself.
Sure.
But, there certainly are like estate planning for dummies kind of books, and you can Google estate planning or how do I do a will or, all that. And I'm sure you can get some good general information. There probably are estate planning podcasts. People keep asking me to start one, and I'm like, when do I fit that in my day? So I don't know what they would be, but I'd say you could just Google them and find out. they're books, things like that. It's good to get just a general knowledge. There's one book that I used to give out to clients called Estate Planning Smarts by Deborah, somebody, can't think of her last name right now. And it's just got a good overview. Now, there are two things I want to say about that. Those books and podcasts are going to give you a good overview. That they're not going to tell you all the nuances really that you need to know. And, you know, I'm not really even practicing law anymore, so I'm not trying to sell clients to myself, but I will say that the one thing I think is do not do it yourself is your estate plan. And people ask me all the time, well, what about LegalZoom or other, you know, online drafting software? And you could use that, and it's better than not doing anything. But I will say that almost every single will contest I've ever seen has been because someone has used an online software program or written their own documents, and they don't know what they don't know. And no software can ask you every single question you need to be asked. You know, like if I was asking you a question and you answered it one way, I'd go down a path and ask you some other questions. You know, we'd suss it out, but which software can't do very well. And so the online software copy documents are better than nothing, but usually they're incomplete or they don't do enough.
Okay. Well,
so you've been asked to do different education pieces on this, and are you offering anything now at all with this kind of estate planning or legacy planning?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things. The one thing I'm definitely offering right now, I'm doing consulting for real estate investors or professionals or business people, but usually the real estate investors call me. And it's not cheap because I have farming to do, but if people want to come to my farm for like 2 days and we dig down into everything, we figure out we design, we don't draft it, I don't prepare it, they still have to have their attorney. But we design exactly what they should do for an estate plan. We get down into the nitty gritty of decision making. We look at entity structure for real estate investors. We look at self-directed IRA investors. We look at a whole big giant 30,000 foot overview down to, you know, dirt level as to what you should do, the very detailed level. Then I create a very detailed memorandum that those people can then take back to the attorney in their state to create their plan. But that, you know, at the farm, if you come to the farm for 2 days, we put people up in our house and we feed them. And that's a $5,000 fee for the weekend and the memo. And it's 2 hours of follow up with your attorney or whatever. If I have to come to you, it's at least $8,000 because I don't want to travel as much as I have been traveling, and my prices may go up. But in terms of the other, for people who don't want the big package, and I don't have anything scheduled right now, but I have seriously considered doing either blogs or probably a little video content, just on little topics and help people. But that just teaches them the general information. They're still going to need to put it together. And I'm not drafting documents right now. I'm not, you know, keeping up my license anywhere other than North Carolina.
So pretty much you're helping people create a roadmap for what they should go back and do. So that way there's all the questions have been asked, all the questions have been answered. And then it's just kind of like, hey, they can go right to their attorney and say, this is what we've decided we need. Can you implement this for me? Can you write these documents for me?
Yes, and the reason that I started doing that, people kept asking because a lot of even the great great attorneys don't know real estate investing topics. They don't understand all the issues. They don't know what a wrap loan is or a land trust or a self-directed IRA. I mean, I didn't for the first, 15 or 20 years of my career. And so what I'm doing is helping them put all the pieces together. It's like the giant eye in the sky looking down at the rat maze. You know, they're at the beginning of the rat maze. They know they want to be at the other end. They don't know where to go, turn left, turn right, go straight. I'm the eye in the sky that tells them which way to turn and all those various decisions, and then puts it together in a memo, like you said, that they can then take to their attorney. And the reason that it's important, even if you have an attorney who knows it all, is because practicing attorneys, and I was one of them, you got a 2-hour appointment, or an hour. Right. They're busy. It's hard to spend, a solid day just chasing all the little rabbits down the holes and thinking about all the issues that make a real difference. And, that's why I'm doing it.
I mean, so you're talking about 2 whole days at your farm, which in those 2 whole days, you're going to probably get at least 12, 16 hours worth of your time.
However much
at least, if it's just 8 hours a day, you're going to get 16 hours of day. Plus, you're going to get an extra 2-hour follow-up after you come back home to make sure that you understand the documents and maybe ask any questions that you have that the attorney might be asking at that point when they bring it to the attorney. That sounds like a pretty good deal. I'm not sure you can get an attorney that has the experience that you have for a couple $100 an hour. Normally, they're at least $400 or $500 an hour. So,
my rate is $400 an hour. Otherwise, if I'm billing as an attorney, and and that also includes the time like to review your stuff before you come. But and then we have fun. We had somebody come and bring his son, and man, we practiced learning how to rope cows, and they got on the excavator and the 4-wheelers, and he played with the goats and the guardian dogs. We had a great time. We played Monopoly. We just had a great time. He loved it.
Awesome.
But, that's sort of what I'm doing now. And then I really want to start more beyond just the estate planning. And we've talked about this, Tom, sort of a financial literacy program for young people, and estate planning would be one piece of it, but everything, the whole life cycle of wealth. And I just have to find the time to sit down and do it. And I just haven't had the time.
So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you in order to be able to maybe discuss this further, how would they get a hold of you for that?
They could email me at Mary Hart at maryhartlaw.com, MARYHART, Mary Hart at maryhartlaw.com. It's probably the best way.
Perfect. Okay.
I'd say that's the best way. Just put something in the title that lets me know that what you're looking for, because I get about 350 emails a day at least, and I need to know that it's not junk. This is not spam.
Yeah.
You can put Tom Olson in the subject line.
Yes. Good success, Tom Olson.
There you go. Make it happen. Well, Mary, I'm sure we could talk about this topic all day long, but we're going to move on to the next topic. So we appreciate everything you shared with that, though. Some great stuff. So if you guys haven't gotten the picture yet, estate planning, make it happen. All right. So Mary, you got other expertises, which one of them is on the legal side. Our primary audience is real estate investors that listen to the podcast here. Almost every single guest that we have on here is a real estate investor in some way, shape, or form. So why is it so important to understand the legalities when it comes to real estate investing? Because whether you're doing property management or fix and flip, wholesaling, there's legal sides to every single facet of real estate. So why is it important for real estate investors to understand that side of what they're doing?
Well, I'd say there are a couple reasons. Everything's rosy and no problem at all if everything goes the way it's supposed to go, right? But it doesn't always go the way it's supposed to go in a flip or a loan or a rental or anything else. And your paperwork, your due diligence, making sure you have all the legal pieces in place can save your bacon in the long run. And I've had it happen to me where it's, if like on a private loan, if the borrower didn't do what they were supposed to do or things were going south, if I had not had the right paperwork in place, I would have lost, maybe $350,000. You've got to have your paperwork in place. And due diligence, same thing. That's, that's not really the legal part, but looking at some of the paperwork, if you're buying a note, for instance, you better understand the legality of the paperwork that you're buying to make sure it's enforceable, right? Otherwise, you pay money for a note, you can't go enforce it. What good is it? You just poured your money down the drain. It's like a big money hole. You just throw your money in if you don't know what you're doing. So I just say, people say cash is king. I say paperwork is king. And I don't care whether it's the paperwork because you've got the right lien waivers for, the documents you're doing, you have the right lien waivers for your contractors, you have the right contracts with people, you have the right loan paperwork, whatever it is, you need to make sure you're doing things the right way.
Yeah, when you're doing lending, and I think lending is a great place to be in, but there's three boxes that have to be checked, and all three boxes have to be checked 100%. So the person that you're lending to is ultimately important. The asset has to be something that you're willing to take back and that you would want. And number 3, the paperwork. And just because number 3 is the paperwork doesn't mean it's any less important. It means it still has to be 100%, like you said, it has to be enforceable. It has to be something that an attorney that you're going to work with is going to be willing to back up and be able to defend against.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll say too, and this is a plug for attorneys, is we learn a lot of things in law school and through a lot of trial and error that isn't something we learn in school. It's not always intuitive. It's not always user friendly. And so there's certain concepts that may be one way in the law, and a layperson would think it should go another way. And unless your paperwork is drafted with the right language, it's not necessarily going to be enforceable. I know a lot of people who've drafted contracts over the years that they've got their bullet points in there, right? But they don't have it written in a way that is enforceable. So when things start to fall apart, it's not enforceable because it wasn't drafted properly. So there's just a lot to look at.
So kind of giving a little bit of the sizzle for what you're going to be talking about at the Community Go-Giver event. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see real estate investors make, maybe on the legal side, maybe it's on the business side, or whatever side that you see most of? So what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see real estate investors make?
And again, this could be a 2-day topic, by the way, lots of them in 28 years, but failure to plan at all, whether that's an estate planning or planning your exit strategy in a partnership or whatever it is, failure to plan is a huge one. Failure to understand entity structure and trust and how they work together and what's really protective of you and what's not. A lot of people think that a land trust, for instance, is an absolute creditor protection structure, and it is not. Even if they are doing it for anonymity, for instance, a lot of people put themselves as the individual beneficiary. So that doesn't help you on the creditor protection at all. Self-directed IRAs, I'm just going off the top of my head, self-directed IRAs, people who don't title the assets properly, they put it in their name instead of the name of their IRA. So inadvertently, they just made a distribution to themselves from their IRA. People who do prohibited transactions with their IRAs without thinking about it and without realizing that, one tiny little mistake that seems like a good idea to everybody could cause 160% in interest and penalties to be paid out. So that's a big one. Gosh, there's so many, I could go on and on, but mostly it's a failure to plan, failure to have exit strategy. That's a big one. I see a lot of people who go into partnerships, they get all excited, they meet someone, they're, hey, let's do this deal together. And their paperwork is not strong. Their exit strategy is not decided upon. They don't know what's going to happen if it starts to go south. And many, many partnerships go south. One of the mistakes I see are 50-50 partnerships where there's no mechanism in the paperwork to break a tie. Right? I see that all the time. We've been in litigation for years, even just trying to choose an attorney to dissolve an entity because it's a 50-50 partnership and nobody has majority control. So, this is what I could go on about forever at Go-Giver. You are giving me 2 days to talk, right, Tom?
Is that right? Yeah, that's right.
No.
So we're going to have 3 dinners for different people to network as well and kind of drill down more specific. So that's, you got it.
So on that last one, what would you say to somebody, because most of the time if somebody's partners with each other in business, they're best friends or they're family members.
For now, they're best friends.
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody like that? They're, they go into this partnership and you probably hear it all the time. Like, yeah, we're best buddies. So we didn't need, all that paperwork or whatnot. What would you say to somebody like that?
Well, whether you're talking about a business partnership, a marriage, anything, you always need to go into it with your exit strategy in mind. Not that you ever want to get out of a marriage, but sometimes it happens. I've been divorced. I never wanted to be. But with a partnership, even if you're best buddies, you may still come to a point where you think differently about even one particular thing. So always talk about and have an agreement about what happens under various scenarios. What if somebody just wants out? What if somebody's in a car wreck and is just disabled for the rest of their life and can't bring to the table what they were supposed to bring to the table? What if someone is in a marriage that goes through a divorce and the spouse tries to take ownership of the business? There's just so many potential issues, right, that you can talk about. But if you have it sort of in an operating agreement or a partnership agreement, a joint venture agreement, whatever it is, and you've sort of talked about what happens if these various things occur, then if they do occur, half the battle is won. Because when you go into an agreement and let's just say there's a breakup of a partnership, but at the beginning, you go into it as best buddies, you don't know who's going to want to leave, you don't know who's going to be the leaver or the leavee in a relationship, then you're more fair about the way you draft the exit strategy because you don't know what position you're going to be in. right? So you're not just negotiating from, oh, I'm going to be that party or I'm going to be this party. It's fair. And then have it in an agreement. And if you have to be 50-50 partners, then have a tie break mechanism in your agreement. You know, you, Tom, you and Josh are 50-50 partners, your best buddies. If you don't agree down the line about some critical decision, how do you break that tie? Is there a trusted third party that's neutral to both of you that you've named in your documents to come in and break the tie? Is it, Josh, you pick one, Tom picks one, and they pick a third one? I mean, there's a lot of different ways. But what happens when it's 50-50 is we're dead in the water. If you've got both people have an equal decision-making authority under the agreement or under the law, and they differ, they can't go anywhere. You can't even decide how to break up the partnership. Right.
That's interesting. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's definitely something that if you're listening, you got to take that into consideration and make that happen. So, all right. So Mary, I'm going to switch tracks one time here, and then we're going to wind this down with our final two questions that we ask every single person we get on the interview. Since you hang out with Walter, and one of the topics that you mentioned when we were booking this podcast interview was self-directed IRAs. So I'm sure this is something you love talking about. So tell us a story. What is one of the most creative things that you've ever done with your self-directed IRA?
Well, that's a bad question to ask me because I'm very vanilla with my self-directed IRA.
Okay. So what's the most intelligent thing you've done?
Well, I tend to get called when I'm solving people's problems. So I'm not the person putting the deal together. Usually I'm the person trying to solve the problem when someone has screwed it up. So how about if I tell you a war story about one of these, okay, instead of that. And let me just back up. I'm very vanilla in my self-directed IRA because I know that even though chances of audit are low, if you do get audited, number one, if the IRS says you did something wrong, the burden of proof is on you, the taxpayer, to prove otherwise. So even if you did everything right, it's expensive and time-consuming to prove it, right? Number two, the penalties and interest for a prohibited transaction are so high that I want to be very, very careful with my IRA. So I do a lot of lending in my IRA, notes. I buy syndicated interest. So I'm just a totally passive investor. So I'm not doing a lot of creative stuff in my IRA for that reason. I still make anywhere from 12 to 35% returns, but it's in a vanilla kind of way, right? So a war story, as an attorney, I got a call from a guy, this was a number of years ago now. And he said, hey, I want to set up an LLC that's owned part by my IRA. Let's just say it's 25% by his IRA, 25% his wife's IRA, and 25% him personally and his wife personally. That can be done. If it's done properly, that can be set up. And normally, you know, you're a disqualified party vis-a-vis your spouse or vis-a-vis your IRA or your spouse's IRA. But it can be done if it's set up properly that all these entities own an LLC together. But then his next statement was, we want to buy vacation rentals in this LLC, and he wanted to funnel all the income to him and his wife personally, not to the LLCs. He did not want to do a pro rata distribution of the income. And I told him he couldn't do that. He wasn't even my client, right? This is a guy who called me a cold call off the phone. I told him that was not possible. And anyway, long story short, he got really, really mad at me and hung up on me because I wouldn't give him the answer he wanted. Later, he called me back and he realized that I was right. So he set up a meeting with me. And at that time, what he said before he hung up was, I know I can do it because I've done it before.
Oh.
And he hung up. Called me back and I'm thinking, well, just because you've done it before doesn't mean it was right. Anyway, long story short, at that point in time, had he been caught, it would have been over $400,000 in penalties and interest accrued at that point. Now, the issue was, one, he wanted to sue the custodian because he was told by the front desk help that he could do this. I said, you probably go read the fine print in your IRA agreement really carefully because you're saying that you're taking on all the risk of legal stuff and they're not giving you legal advice. So I don't think you're going to get anywhere with that lawsuit. And the second piece of that was the statute of limitations doesn't start running because you don't file a tax return reporting any income on your IRA. So this will haunt him the rest of his life. He could have filed a return then and hoped it wasn't a red flag, or he just ignored it and hoped to God he never got audited, see what happens, change to another IRA, but they can trace it back, by the way. But anyway, that's just, you can be creative, you can do things, but there are certain rules that you have to follow. And if you don't do it, the potential penalties and consequences are huge.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. That was a good war story.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna have to wind this down. Tripping over my words here.
So much.
Yeah, you do. I'm trying to keep up with you, and I'm tripping over my words. So, thank you so much for everything that you've shared so far. Just incredible value that you've brought to the show today, and thank you for obviously taking the time to be away from your farm to actually be on the show with us today. So we got 2 more questions that we're going to ask you that we ask every single person we get on the interview here. So Good Success for us. You know Tom very well. So Tom obviously being the president and owner of Good Success. Maybe it's the first time that you heard about Good Success or whatever it was. What came to mind when you hear that term, Good Success? Maybe not the specific group of people that we have. Maybe it's in our mastermind, because I know you know several people in the mastermind. But when you hear that term, Good Success, what does that mean to you? What's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
You mean if I did not know about what it was, or knowing what good success?
Either or. There's no right or wrong answer.
All right, I'll tell you both ways then. If I'd never heard of Tom or any of the Good Success people, then good success, just as 2 words put together, would mean good success. Because success can be bad, right? You can be technically successful, but it's not good. And however you define good, you're making tons of money, but your family life is falling apart, right? That's not good success. That's bad success. So if I just were looking at the words, I'd say, well, it's the right kind of success, good success, right? But knowing Tom and knowing the other people that I've met through Good Success, it means even more than that to me, because it means character, integrity, service to others, love for others, a willingness to work really hard to help people go forward and be more successful in a good way in their lives. And so, I mean, I'm not really trying to drum up client business these days. I'll take it if people want me, but I'm not on here as trying to push a product or trying to get clients. I'm on here because of my respect for Tom Olson, to be honest with you.
Amazing.
That's why I'm here, because
Thank you, Mary.
He's the epitome of good success. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank
She
you.
was nice to you.
She was nice to me. That's
I love
because I
it.
look nice today.
Thank you for sharing all that. Much appreciated. And that definitely does mean a lot to everyone here. So you got to leave the audience with one thing. So one thing only, whether it's a book that you've read that you want to share, a piece of advice, a quote, a thought, whatever it is. One thing you got to share the audience with. What would that be?
Well, you caught me at a time that I'm really studying the hemp plant, and that's not marijuana. People think it's marijuana. It's not. It's a cousin that does not get you high. But I have learned an amazing amount about how this plant and the history of this plant in our country and what it can do going forward to heal us, feed us, clothe us, and shelter us. It's the only plant that can do that. It's the only plant probably that's going to save the American farmer. It's the only plant that can remediate our soil and has a negative carbon footprint through all its cycles. And so it's totally unrelated to what we're talking about today, but I am just excited about the future of hemp in our country to really help a lot of people in our country, whether it's medicinally or nutritionally or the soil, the environment. So that's my takeaway for today.
I love it.
Awesome.
No, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure people are going to be interested in that and go look that up as well. So thank you
That's
for
very
sharing that.
interesting. So if you follow Mary on Facebook, she has a lot of stuff about that in there. And it's always amazing to me how us men and women on this earth can always turn something that's really meant to be good and turn it into something that's not good. It's like success. You know, we can have good success, the right kind of success, or we can just stomp over people and do it the wrong way. And I think that I respect Mary for bringing that up the way she did, because I think it's perfect. Yes, like there's a plant out there that some people use or whatever for the wrong purpose, but used properly can really help a lot of people. Yeah. And I think it's awesome.
This one can't be used for the wrong purpose because there's no psychoactive effect to it. You cannot get high off this plant. And in fact, it was stomped down in like 1937 because of corporate greed, actually.
Right.
The people who produce paper didn't like it when hemp could make paper, much more economically and more efficiently. So they convinced Congress that it was a drug, and it's not.
So it's basically like cotton. It's basically like
better.
You don't think of
it. Less water to grow the same amount of fiber as cotton. So it saves our water, it saves our soil. It's an amazing plant, and I did not know all this until I've been researching it the last month or two. It's just an amazing plant.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that.
Our U.S. Constitution was written on hemp paper.
Oh.
FYI.
See, you guys didn't know that. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. American farmers in the colonies were required by law to grow hemp because it was what made all the ropes and the sails for the sailing ships and went back and forth between Britain and the colonies.
Wow. That's amazing. History lesson for you. You guys didn't expect to get that, did you? That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all that, Mary. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Mary, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been amazing having you on. So much value that you've brought us. Thank you for taking the time to do that. Now, I know that you mentioned it a little bit earlier when Tom and you were talking about some of the services that you could offer, but somebody wanted to get in contact with you. What would be the best way to make that happen?
Again, I think email me, Mary Hart at maryhartlaw.com. Maryhart, Mary Hart at maryhartlaw.com, and put something in the subject line so I'll know it's not spam. You can mention Tom's name. You can say good success. You can something that will trigger off this podcast so I'll know it's not junk mail.
There you go. Make sure you guys do that. Mary, thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for
so
sharing everything you did. Yes. And we look forward to having you back again soon.
Awesome. Thanks. We'll see you at the Go Giver event in June.
All right. Sounds good.
Have a great day.
All right, so that is going to do it for today's episode. We appreciate you guys jumping on and joining us today. Make sure that if you haven't already, subscribe to the Good Success Podcast if you enjoyed this episode. We're on all podcast platforms, or just search Good Success at the App Store. Download the official app, and that'll make it 10 times easier. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review. We much appreciate that. And then the Community Go Giver event, communitygogiver.com. It's coming in fast. It's next month, and we're excited about it. June 26, 27, 28. You heard Mary Hart today, who's actually going to be speaking on day one. So if you want to hear more of this awesome stuff, awesome content, then come to the Community Go Giver event. You're going to get far more value out of just even her speaking than what you're going to be paying for. So take advantage of that, communitygogiver.com, selling out at 80 seats. So can't take any more than that. Make sure you sign up right away. And then the Good Success Mastermind, the next event is in August, right here in our backyard in Maryville, Indiana. We're excited about it, but if you guys want to learn more about it, go to goodsuccess.com/mastermind, fill out the application there, then you'll jump on a phone call with Tom here, and you guys could talk about the mastermind. Hopefully we'll see you at the next one. So that's going to do it for today's episode of the Good Success Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember to be a conduit and not a bucket.
Work to have to give.
And we'll catch you all on the next one.